Hi. Welcome to Book Pop.
I'm Molly Fish.
And I'm Jamie Anderson. And what are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about the Heartland Fall Forum today. This was a booksellers conference that we went to in October this month, last week only. We just got back.
It's all fresh. We're still tired.
It's very fresh. Literally, all we've been talking about since we've seen each other is like how tired we are and how much we're sleeping. Not that it was tiring, but just traveling in general and going to things is tiring. And then we got back and there's a ton going on here. And we're ramping up for the book festival this weekend, the Wisconsin Book Festival, and a bunch of events at the store over the next couple of weeks. So,
and if you haven't seen it yet, we have a new sign.
Oh my God.
So that was exciting.
Very emotionally exhausting for me to have the beautiful new sign installed and to be just thinking about it all day, every day, and how
It's
great
beautiful.
it is.
Yeah. And it's bringing in the customers.
It is. It's working.
Yep.
We're getting that question again a lot now of how long have you been here?
Uh-huh.
I didn't know this was here, which I feel like that question had died down a lot after like this summer, and now it's back. So yeah, it's been a big couple of weeks, and it's only going to be ramping up. I kept saying in September, I was like, rest now, because October's going to get crazy, and then it's going to be the holidays, and it's just like a ramp going up all the way to Christmas, and we love it. This is what we want to be doing, not even complaining. I love it. I just also get sleepy sometimes.
Yes, I spent my entire day off taking naps.
Yep. Same.
And doing laundry and taking another nap and finishing laundry.
And reading. I've also like the thing about this conference I got so energized about is, well, it's kind of overwhelming thinking about all the books that are out there and getting pitched books by publishers. And you're like, yeah, that sounds great. And then another one like, oh, that sounds great too. And, you know, there's only so many books that we can read or that we can sell or that we can fit in the store.
Right.
Or that make sense for our customers. So it kind of becomes a lot where you're like, oh, yeah, well, I can't read all these and I can't. But it makes me want to read more and read faster. So I've been reading a lot, which is good. Although it feels more like frantic reading sometimes where it's like, I got to get through this book so I can get to the next book. So I can get to the next book.
I feel that, especially coming home with so many free arcs.
Oh my God. What a blessing and a burden.
Yep. It was super fun. And then I just tried to I needed to stop myself from grabbing another book.
Yeah.
How many more do you need? Are you going to read that? Or like, who can you give that to?
Right. Yeah. The good news is for folks listening in the Madison area, we will have a lot of great arcs that once we get through the ones we can, we'll be able to give away to our community and customers.
Do you want to do a little listener feedback session?
Ooh, yeah. So we love when you guys reach out to us and give us like some insight on something we talked about or maybe we're ignorant about.
We don't know what we're talking about.
Or just like offer further context that maybe we didn't know. So one example is we were talking recently about the book The Power Broker by Robert Caro, and how it was blowing up and it was flying off the shelves. And we were like, what a interesting book to be trending. But our friend and muralist, Emily Balsley, weighed in. Shout out to Emily Blue Star on Instagram. You can follow her there and all of her great art and community work as a muralist. So she commented, hey, there was an episode of The Daily, which is a New York Times podcast, on September 22nd, which was a book review episode celebrating the 50th anniversary of that book, The Power Broker. And they had been reading it. Her husband had been reading it. And they had listened to that episode. So she said there's a lot of Robert Moses talk in our house these days. And that's probably why it's blowing up. Maybe that's happening in other people's houses as well. And we were like, wow, that's great. And I'm surprised I missed that episode of The Daily since I subscribe and listen to a lot of those. But, you know, I've been pretty much focusing all my podcast listening on politics related topics. So maybe I just kind of was skipping through The Daily and only listening to politics ones. But anyway, that's cool. So thank you, Emily, for pointing that out. And for anyone who's curious about that book or that trending topic of 50-year-old, Wall Street influencer, you can go check out that episode of The Daily on 922.
Yeah, and if anybody else wants to correct us or
super open to corrections,
any feedback, let us know. You can email us at bookpoppodcast@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram, bookpop.podcast. Should we talk events?
Yeah.
Because we're getting into them.
That's right.
Like in the weeds.
The day that this comes out will be the first day we are selling books at the Wisconsin Book Festival, although that festival starts on Thursday, I believe.
Yes, the 17th. So check out the book festival calendar for all those events. We're going to be at the Arts and Lit Lab, the Wisconsin Historical Society, the Discovery Building.
Yep. And I'm also going to be introducing an author on Sunday. I'm going to be introducing Lev Grossman, who wrote The Bright Sword. And that's 1:30 p.m. at the Central Library. So if you want to hear about that book from that author, I will be there as well. Really looking forward to that.
And then we have some events at the store on October 21st, which is a Monday. We will be hosting John McShay. And his book is Old Bones, Young Spirit, an experienced cyclist 15-day adventure around Lake Michigan. And he'll be here to talk about that and sign books. And you can buy those here or you can pre-order with us on lakecitybooks.com. And then on Wednesday, October 23rd, also at Lake City Books, is Betsy Corbinier featuring her book, Time, Beauty, and Grief, a hike through Wisconsin's 50 state parks. And we actually met her at the Heartland Fall Forum. I got an advanced copy so I can bone up on that. Beautiful cover. I'm really excited to hear more from her. And then on Thursday, October 24th, oh my gosh, it's going to be a busy week.
Yeah. Did you see the schedule?
I saw it came out. I was really scared to look at it. I'm really in a week by week situation here. Like I can only handle so much at a time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But on Thursday, October 24th is going to be Heidi Bell with Signs of the Imminent Apocalypse and Other Stories. It's a short story collection. And Kim Sewer is going to be here as well with her book, Close Call, which is also a short story collection. And that's already gotten a lot. I mean, we've sold a lot of those already. So it's going to be a great event. And then in November 1st, which is a Friday, we are going to host Mel and Tegan Hammond for Lucy Uncensored, which we've also gotten a ton of feedback on that.
And that's a YA fiction book, right?
Yeah. Yes. It is a compelling YA novel that takes you on a transformative road trip through gender identity, self-expression, and the journey of finding your place.
Sounds like a great one, too. These will all be at Lake City Books. We're starting to host more events here.
It's going to be great.
It is great to give so many local authors and folks coming through. The Lucy Uncensored authors aren't local necessarily, but had Madison connections and wanted to do a release here. So I feel like it's great to offer different kinds of storytellers in addition to local.
Yeah, for more information about our events, check out lakecitybooks.com. What are you reading?
I am reading The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman, which I'm very excited about. So you're hearing this. It comes out Friday, October 17th. Nope. It comes out Friday, October 18th. And on Sunday, October 20th, Lev Grossman is going to be in Madison at the Wisconsin Book Festival at the Central Library at 1:30 p.m. And I get to introduce him, which is so exciting.
It's very exciting. I'm so happy for you.
Right? I'm honored. I was a big fan of the Magician's Trilogy, which is his thing he's most famous for writing, which is kind of like a dirty Harry Potter-esque, like School for Wizards, but everyone's like 20 years old and having sex and doing drugs and stuff. And
That was turned into a Netflix series, wasn't it?
it is on Netflix. I think it was like on the Sci-Fi Channel, and now it's
Okay.
streaming on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can go watch that right now. So he has a really famous, piece of work out there, and it's been a really long time since he's come out with another book. So this is his first like adult book since then, and it's called The Bright Sword, and it is a Arthurian legend epic fantasy. So it takes place in the time of Camelot, which is like, I don't know, like 500-ish AD, and is in Britain, and it's got all of the Knights of the Round Table, but it is also like at this transition period where, and I don't think this is really a spoiler, but Camelot is like fallen or falling. So at the end of most legends, like versions out there of the King Arthur tale, there is a big battle, and Arthur like disappears or dies or gets taken away by the angels or whatever, like you want to say. So this is kind of like around then, and there's like a young knight who's like coming to Camelot from the outskirts of England and doesn't know this has all happened, and he's like, I'm gonna be a knight of the Round Table, and he's so excited, and he gets there and everything's like in shambles, and he's trying to just like figure out what happened and figure out if like what he can do with his life. And it is really fun because he's meeting like the leftover knights who have survived, and they're telling, they're kind of like bedraggled at this point, but then it goes back and tells you their like origin tales. And one of my favorites is, I'm like a third of the way through, but there is Sir Palomides, who is from Baghdad. And so it actually is putting some outside cultures into this like very traditional English tale and legend, right? And he talks about coming from Baghdad, which was like so much more technologically advanced, and going to this like barbaric, cold country. It's just really, it's funny, his perspective. And he's this really great and smart and talented knight. And it just blends a lot of legends together. I really am enjoying it. It moves quickly, and he blends like some of that medieval language, which even though it doesn't take place in medieval times, that's when a lot of those legends were written. And so it's kind of creating its own version of this legend that is a little more modern, and it's really focusing on this like, not the King Arthur pulling the sword from the stone part or any of the big earlier parts of the legend. It's focusing on like the end of this thing, which
you never hear.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to be like, what does happen?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm only a third of the way through, but I'm really loving it, and I'm hoping to get through all like 680 pages by Sunday when I get to meet Lev Grossman. And anyway, you can come meet him with me if you're listening to this on Friday or Saturday, because he will be here.
Yeah, that's very exciting.
So what are you reading, Jamie?
So I finished Intermezzo by Sally Rooney.
The big fall hit.
The big fall hit. And I just thought I was kind of being targeted to read this because I've read so much Sally Rooney like this year alone. And if you've been following on with the podcast, I've been talking about it. It's been a few days since I finished it, and I'm still not sure how I feel. I feel like I like it more. I'm definitely glad I read it. So it follows two brothers after the death of their father, who had cancer and was declining. So it like starts at his funeral. And Ivan is the younger brother. He's 22 years old. He's socially awkward. He's a chess genius. He has braces. Peter, who's the older brother, there's like a 10-year difference between their age. He is an attorney. On the outside, it seems like he's got his shit together. And it really follows the relationship between Ivan and Peter and how they're handling the grief after the death of their father. And it dives into how different their relationships were with their dad, and also their relationship with each other, which is very tumultuous. And there's, I don't know, a lot of judgment going on between them. What happens is Ivan goes to this chess tournament, and he ends up meeting a girl, and she is 36, an older woman, and they develop this relationship. And then when Peter finds out about it, he judges Ivan in this situation, and he judges this girl, and like what's wrong with this girl that she wants to be with a 22-year-old man. And
Which sounds pretty hypocritical based on his relationship situation.
Exactly, because his former fiance, they have this friendship, but she's also kind of stringing him along because he's still in love with her, but she was in this accident and something happened and it's never really like described. It throws a wrench in their relationship, and she decides that she's doing the best thing by breaking up with Peter. And this is years later that they're in the situation that they're in now, where he has this younger girlfriend who's a college student and is kind of using him for money and a place to live. But they've also been dating, like they've had a relationship going on for like a year now. So it's normalized for them. And you kind of don't know what's going to happen with this throuple.
So is it just about their romantic relationships? My thing about Sally Rooney, having not read a lot of her, is I'm always like, but what happens? Is it just like people talking and each chapter is like a scene of dialogue?
It is, I feel, 100% emotion driven.
Yeah. Okay.
Character driven to an extent, not plot driven.
Right.
At all. There is like movement of the characters and things are happening, but like that's not what is highlighted in it.
Yeah, maybe that makes me a very basic reader. I like a plot. I like plot driven. I mean, that's also like fantasy and sci-fi stuff is very plot driven. Not that I don't like a lit fic like ambient hang sometimes, but especially if it's kind of fraught, then I'm like,
a definitive
let's move
course.
this along.
Yeah,
well, I just want like a little bit of a roller coaster then, which
Yeah.
maybe it does have that of like you're kind of up and then you're down.
There's a lot of conflict between the brothers. There's the emotional ups and downs. Like that's definitely there. There's also this dual kind of narrative that's happening with Ivan. It's very much a standard telling of his point of view. From Peter, it's more of a train of thought. It's not at all times cohesive. It jumps around from past to present. You don't know if he's talking in actual dialogue to somebody or if it's something that he's saying in his head. And I think that it's hard to grapple with, and you know, it's not as linear, and that makes it difficult too.
And is that pretty similar to like her previous books' writing styles?
It's to an extent, yes, but this is just, it's so much more choppy that like the sentence structure alone was just hard to get into. And it starts with Peter. So when I was reading the first chapter,
and like, what's going on?
Exactly. I was like, I thought I picked up Sally Rooney. Yeah. Like, what is this? But I did make it through like the first half pretty fast. And then I just kind of trudged through the second half. And at the end, there's resolution. The characters are developed, that you feel that you know them and you're invested in them. Even all the girlfriends, like I really liked Margaret. She's probably my favorite character in the whole thing. Yeah, just the way that Sally Rooney writes men and women is really interesting, and the differences. I don't know. I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah. So it was thought-provoking.
Absolutely.
And sometimes enjoyable to read.
Sometimes enjoyable. Yeah, it was enjoyable to read. The chapters were long. The book itself was 450 pages. And there was several points where I was just like, we could have cut this. And I didn't find some parts of it necessary.
That kind of gets to that interview that Sally Rooney did with the New York Times, right? How she's like, I don't write this for other people, and like doesn't have like a social media presence, and is just like writing for herself, right?
Yes. It was on the Daily, and the title of it was like, Sally Rooney thinks career advancement is overrated or something like that. And it was, her talking about how she views her books and why she writes, and a lot of the questions that she was getting asked, she was just like, yeah, I don't think about that. I don't bother myself with that. And I like really related to that.
Cool.
In that's going to bother me. That's going to ruin my day if I think about that.
Yeah.
So I don't think about that.
Interesting.
It was an interesting interview. And I feel like I understood Sally Rooney a lot better after that. And I was reading Intermezzo when I listened to that. And so I think that might have changed my way through the book as well. I'm glad I read it.
Yeah.
I know a lot of other people are reading it, and I really want to know what they think about it.
Okay, listener, you heard it. You can email us at bookpoppodcast@gmail.com. DM us on Instagram, bookpop.podcast.
I know you're out there.
Tell Jamie what you think of Intermezzo.
So I know what to think of Intermezzo.
That's fun. I bet there will be, we're selling so many and it's only been out a couple of weeks, but I bet you'll be able to talk to some customers about it too soon once they get to it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. All right. Should we move on to our Heartland topic?
Yeah, we are really excited to give you guys like a little insider peek into this booksellers conference that we went to in Milwaukee called the Heartland Fall Forum. It was put on by 2 bookseller associations for indie bookstores. One is called the Midwest Independent Bookseller Association. That's what we're a part of, aka MEBA. And I love the word MEBA. I say it all the time.
All the time.
Jamie will tell you. At one point we were in a session and someone said MIBA, and I was like, if it's actually MIBA instead of MEBA, my like brain will break because MEBA is like such an important part of my vocabulary. But we really love being a part of MEBA and all of the resources that they provide. And we also were partnering with the Great Lakes Independent Bookseller Association, which is GLEBA. So it's like a huge, basically the whole middle
Midwest,
of the country is just split up kind of arbitrarily to Midwest and Great Lakes. And everybody came together. So there are 212 member bookstores of MEBA, of which there were 254 bookseller attendees this year at this conference. So a pretty big percentage.
Yeah.
And that number of 312 indie bookstores in the Midwest, not even including the Great Lakes region, which is like Michigan, Ohio, kind of the east of the Midwest. That number is up from 210 in 2022. So like over 100 new indie bookstores in 2 years. Also like all in the tail end of the pandemic. It's such a cool thing to see that boom happening, and then also to be around all those people. So there were a ton of the people there, 115 of us, including Jamie and me, were new first-time attendees to this forum.
It was crazy.
So there were just so many people that had like, oh yeah, we have a bookstore that we opened a year ago. Oh yeah, we have a bookstore that we opened 9 months ago. And we're a year and a half old at Lake City Books. So we were right in there with the newbie bookstore owners.
Yeah.
And it just felt like finding our peer group. It felt like finding our people. I've been to conferences in my past jobs where I was like, I'm just trying to get through the day. And this was not like that. It was like every second you were meeting someone or running into someone that like could talk about books with you and talk. I mean, we're all booksellers who love books and there's books all around you and we're talking about books and there's authors there and there's publishers there. I had a great time. I thought it was really, really valuable. We'll get into more of the details, but before I keep rambling on, I want to hear from you, Jamie. What did you think of it? And what were some of your big takeaways?
Yeah, I had no idea what to expect going into it. So we went down on Sunday just for the afternoon. They had these retreats, and I attended the events and marketing retreat while you did the owners retreat. And for that, it was a panel of publishing reps and other bookstore owners and event coordinators. And then it was all of us who were event coordinators in our store and were booksellers in our store. And we all had a lot of the same questions. Some of them had answers to our questions. We were all at little tables and we got to do like these breakout discussions, which normally would give me hives.
I know. You were so worried. You were like, breakouts.
That's a triggering word for me from doing like online classes and yeah. But it was wonderful. Like might have switched my whole thinking of breakouts now.
I mean, it switched my whole thinking about conferences.
Yes,
I'll put it that way.
absolutely. And I think I really left that whole session just totally ready for the week. It was very energizing. There was so much information that we got. And like a lot of fun things that got me really excited about going into like doing all these events. And
yeah, what's one of them?
Okay, the costume characters. And then one thing that you brought from your owner's retreat was these like princess things.
Oh yeah, the princess
reading
events.
times.
Yes.
And so like
Very related.
focusing more on like those kids events. And I feel like a little silly that I didn't think of it, because when my kids were little, finding those little things to do to get us out of the house to like be stimulating and like not too expensive, but still something the whole family could get into. That was like something I was always looking for. And I think that that's something that we could absolutely provide at the store and that people would love it. So I'm really excited about doing more costume characters and maybe some princess story times.
That would be really fun.
Right?
I love a princess. So my owner's retreat, I got that idea from Brooke from Bike Trail Books in Loveland, Ohio, which is near Cincinnati. And we didn't have a panel at our owner's retreat. It was just like you sat at tables, you kind of were like arbitrarily picked where you sat, and then they would give you a topic and they'd be like, discuss. So it would be like staffing. You have 20 minutes. And then we talked about staffing. But people would bring up, usually we started with like, does anyone have a question or concerns that they want to go, they want to bring up and talk about, or like a great idea, right? That they think everyone should do. So we tried to start there. And I will just give a big shout out to Brooke, because me and some of the other owners at our table Brooke had all these great ideas, like the princess story, and they were doing so many events, and they'd been open under a year. And we were all so whatever the topic was, we were like, well, Brooke, you go first and tell us what you do, because we all want to copy your ideas. And she was so generous in sharing lots of things with us. Yeah. So, and then also another shout out to Kate from Monstera's Books, which is near Kansas City, Lena from Whispering Shelf in Indianapolis, which is where the forum will be next year, hoping that we get to go. We'll see if it works out with our schedules. I also got to sit with one of the owners of Tropes and Trifles, which is the romance bookstore that just opened in Minneapolis, romance only. And so I was like, oh my God, you're like famous. That bookstore, I feel like everyone in the Midwest has been talking about that, because we don't have very many romance only bookstores. I know Chicago has one or two now.
San Diego, Meet Cute.
Yes. Well, I think like the coasts is more like where they are though.
Yeah.
Like in the Midwest, we don't really have any. No. So I was really excited to get to talk to her. But yeah, it was a really interesting just initial, for us, it was everyone just kind of idea dumping and brain dumping, and also some bitching and venting about things that we didn't really have solutions for, but we just all had the same problem. And even that makes you feel good. Yep. Just that you're not alone.
Commiserate. Yes.
You're not alone in your problems. What were some of your other big takeaways from the week?
I'm trying to think of like our schedule, what we did on Monday. It was only a week ago. And I'm just like, what happened again?
Well, we did the big like opening ceremony lunch.
Yes.
Which had great authors at it.
Yes, that's right. A whole panel of authors that were talking about their books that are coming out.
Mm-hmm. So we got to like eat lunch while authors explain their books to us. It was very fun to be, I don't know, it felt like we were kind of being pampered as booksellers.
Yes.
And a lot of people had that vibe too of like, we're not in this to make money. Like no one's going to be super wildly millionaires after this. And this is kind of like, it seemed like everyone was just luxuriating at this beautiful hotel. We were at the Hilton in Milwaukee, which is like a historic hotel.
They fed us so much
food.
They
fed us. They're just feeding you food all the time at this conference. And all these booksellers who normally are like, we're scraping by for whatever we can get.
Like eating a sandwich at the counter.
Yeah,
just scarfing.
Exactly right. I literally just heated up coffee left over from yesterday because I was like, well, it's still there and it's fine. So from that to like really high quality food. So it was fun to be, and for people to be kind of catering to us, which it felt great. Mm-hmm. So that was maybe a part of why we all enjoy it so much. But there were two authors that I was really particularly excited about from that opening panel. Mm-hmm. One of them was Nick Butler, who has a new book out in February 2025 called A 40-Year Kiss. And it is like a blue-collar Wisconsin romance.
I'm so excited for it.
So excited.
I have it with me because I wanted to make sure that we talked about it again.
Nice. Yeah, we each got, I counted, and I think I got 40.
I didn't count. I need to count.
Copies. And some of those were things that like I wanted to keep for myself, or I was like, oh, I know someone I want to pass this on to and see what they think. So at this point in my house, I only have like 30.
Okay.
I'm down to 30.
Down to 30.
I've been like giving them out already.
Yeah.
But it was I had back problems. Carrying all these books around.
Yeah, the trade show was so much fun. You just pick up books and put them in your new tote, and you have to make several trips to the car.
It's a book lover's dream to be walking through like a room full of tables of unreleased books. And there's like a publisher rep standing behind the table saying like, what do you want to know about it? I'll tell you about it. And then you can just take that book home with you. It was a lot because we're also all kind of like introverts as booksellers, but we also all love talking about books.
Right.
And you just kind of lean into that part. And if you get a little sold to, like, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
Or if some people are more awkward than others of being like, no, you can't take that one. And
oh my gosh, I was so awkward. I'm just over it. It's like I said so many dumb things, but like whatever.
It doesn't hurt to ask if you can take something. That's for sure.
That's right.
But the other author I wanted to mention from the opening session was an Iowa romance writer who I'm really excited about. And her name is Denise Williams, and her next book is called Just Our Luck. And I just really think she's great. She writes really like diverse romantic leads. And I can't wait to read the arc of her new book. And I also am hoping we'll be able to get her in the store.
Yeah.
That would be sometime like next spring and have her here. So anyway, but they were all great authors.
Yeah,
like,
they
for
really
example,
were.
we have to talk about Hanif Abdurraqib.
Oh my God.
Who was like an award. He was being lauded, rightfully so, as like an impactful Midwest book presence. I don't remember what the exact award name was. I'm sure it wasn't that.
Right. But it was well deserved, whatever it was.
Whatever it was, we just like were mesmerized listening to him talk.
Yeah.
It was, and so his book that is out this year is called There's Always This Year, on basketball and ascension. And all of his books have always made the Obama summer reading list. He is a nonfiction writer based out of Columbus, Ohio, and he's still there impacting his community. We heard like a testimonial from one of his like first small publisher who published his first like book of poetry. And that guy just was explaining in a way that Hanif probably would be too humble to ever do the impact that Hanif has on the Columbus community directly.
Yes.
And like the event he does every fall where he like fills backpacks up with school supplies and has a huge and has like a barber there giving haircuts for kids, and like it's just like a big free block party where kids can just come get ready for the school year. Like, we were crying.
And then he was so kind. We all got a free copy of his book, and he talked to everybody.
He did.
He signed my name in my book. I didn't even realize, like, I didn't see that coming. He was sitting there having a conversation, and
personalized signings, had a conversation with everyone, and it was just a joy. He had just been here at the Goodman Community Center in Madison, so he's like, "Oh, Madison, I was just there talking about what a great city it is." And we were like, we know we couldn't make it to that event. We were so bummed, and we're so glad we got to see him there.
Yes,
because what an amazing speaker, and so that was a highlight for me for sure.
Saffron was also a highlight for me.
Oh yeah, the fancy Indian restaurant that you took us to that we all loved and gushed over.
Yes. I'm glad everybody liked it because it was a lot of pressure. Take 3 other people to a modern Indian restaurant.
Oh my God. Well, and like I knew I wanted to go from the beginning. We were driving there and we were like, look, worst case scenario, we make no friends and we just go to Saffron and stuff our faces. But then we did make friends. So we brought Kate and Brooke with us, and it was unbelievable.
It was.
Even though the waiter did call me basic for ordering the butter chicken. But I tell you what, no regrets.
The butter chicken was amazing.
I'll get it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was spicy.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like I was like asking for no spice.
Right. But then like the drinks were such a production. There were smoke bubbles on the cocktails and
a lot. You literally had a lava lamp drink.
It was so good. Everybody had to try it because it was so impressive.
Oh my God. it was such a production. Like when you go out for fine dining, I feel like that is what the bar is.
Yeah.
Is it should be both like beautiful, good service, great food, exciting, like things that it was something I'd never experienced before.
Yeah.
And we sat at this high top table right in the window, which was so special.
It was just a beautiful restaurant. Good vibes for sure.
We did shut that place down and they had to lock the door after we left. They literally locked it behind us.
Yes. No shame.
No shame. I think another highlight for me was just getting some ideas of stuff to do here. Like you mentioned some of the event ideas we want to do. For example, Mahjong, I think we were both pretty excited about. This is another Brooke classic genius idea.
I love this event.
Of doing like having someone come teach Mahjong 101. So you can sign up to learn how to play Mahjong. And then there's like 102. And then eventually you can just have like open play nights at your store where people can come play Mahjong. And we were like, we want to learn how to play Mahjong. That sounds so fun.
We need to find an instructor like Stat.
Or even some people were talking about doing reading retreats at like Airbnbs. Honestly, it was probably Brooke again. And we were like, oh, that reminds us of Bummer Camp, which Anne Garvin just did, where she had like a reading retreat at a camp and brought authors and people could like do crafts and meet with authors and read books and buy books. So I feel like that is a new thing that is going to start trending in the Midwest too, is like women just want to go flock to a place to be together and to read and
to talk about books. Yeah.
And be in the presence of other book lovers. Another revelation for me was Emily in Paris, which Jamie made me watch in the hotel room. And I was always so resistant because I was like, I don't need a Gen Z show. And I wasn't like never that impressed from like a preview or whatever. But like I tell you what I loved, which was Sex in the City. Yeah. And this is just Gen Z Sex in the City, but in Paris.
With many hot Parisian men.
The hottest men.
I have continued watching it too after Milwaukee.
So we were like stayed up late watching Emily in Paris together in the hotel room, which was crazy fun. And now I'm addicted. It's so good.
It is so good.
It's really well crafted, honestly. Like the arcs of each episode, like complete, but then it's still moving forward. Yeah, it's great. Everyone's so beautiful. It's just like, France porn.
Yes.
But
not dirty.
Not dirty. Just,
not dirty.
The style and it's awesome. So thank you. That was a big
welcome.
Revelation for me, in addition to Saffron. Anything else you want to mention?
I do want to mention we did have a lunch with a speaker, and she had her new book coming out, Original Sins, and her name is Eve Ewing. And it was such a compelling conversation that she talked about as her experiences as a middle school educator and how she's now a college professor, but she really, got her ideas about the education system through middle school teaching. And the byline of this is the miseducation of Black and Native children and the construction of American racism. And I feel like that sums it up. And it's such an interesting topic, and it's such a historical topic. And like the teaching of racism in our schools is still prominent today. And I'm really excited to dive into this as a nonfiction that I picked up.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And I mean, we just had Columbus Day, which is now Indigenous Peoples Day, rightly.
Yes.
But things like that. She talked about, why are we teaching Christopher Columbus like he's some Santa Claus character, where kids like make little pilgrim hats, and like this is not what history really was.
Yeah.
And this, whitewashing has really continued and still is in our curriculum.
Right.
And she uses really great examples like that I think are really approachable. But I also can't wait to read it. It was a really fascinating topic that we don't think enough about.
Right. Yeah. But I learned a ton more from the Heartland Fall Forum. It was so informative.
It was. And I still stand by, I think the people that we met was one of my favorite parts. And another shout out also to Arcadia Books in Spring Green and getting to hang out with Natalie there.
And Keith and at Republic
Keith
of Letters.
from Republic of Letters. It was really great to meet him in person and get to spend some time with him. So just it's a great community builder. It made me feel really connected to our community. It made me feel excited about our community of booksellers in the Midwest. And yeah, I can't wait to go back.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you at the bookstore.
Bye.
Bye.
Book Pop Podcast is presented by Lake City Books. Produced by Jamie Anderson and Molly Fish. Edited by Jamie Anderson. Music and art by Lovick. Follow us on Instagram at bookpop.podcast. Find out more at our website, bookpoppodcast.com.